All right, welcome to the podcast. We'll get started where everyone else does. As far as earliest childhood memory, what are we getting into?
That's a hard question. I would say, I remember as like a very young kid, I lived in like, I guess my second home, but it had like a lot of acreage
Okay,
and we had like a lot of space and we got a new chocolate lab. And I remember the puppy running up to me when I was like 3 years old
that's
out in the yard.
fantastic.
Yeah.
We'll take good childhood memories. We like them. We like them. As
Yeah.
far
Yeah.
as like acreage and stuff like that goes, were you able to play on it a lot? What was it? What was going on with that?
Yeah, it was just how the house was set up. But we did, I mean, yeah, there was like a lot of places to I remember my brother won an ATV when he was younger from like a church raffle.
Oh,
And
let's
it was
go.
pretty small. I think we were like maybe 7 or 8.
Yeah.
So we did that at the time until we outgrew that and kind of, I would say, busted the whole thing because we were too heavy for it.
That's phenomenal. So, were your parents much of the, hey, get outside and we'll see you for dinner, or what was the vibe growing up there?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. It was my parents were very hands-off. So go experience what it's like outside, the good and the bad.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's important. I grew up a lot of my time playing sports. So whenever I
Hmm.
had free time, sometimes I was confused. I'm like, what do I do? I was like, I thought
Yeah,
I was I was supposed to be playing a sport.
for
Um,
real.
in like elementary, middle school, did you like school at all? Was it all about friends and sports and activities?
Yeah, okay. These are some cool questions. So I definitely liked school as a younger, like in the younger grades for sure. And I would say all the way up until high school, but that's when it got tricky. Elementary, I was big into every sport. I liked basketball a lot. I liked football a lot.
Yeah.
And that was more middle school probably. And in middle school, the same thing. I grew up in Commerce City, which that house that I was speaking about was in Henderson. So
Okay.
like it was a little bit of a bigger city, and I lived a little bit farther away and took the bus to school. So I'm all about friends. I had good friends, but I'd say that I spent the majority of time at my house and invited people over if they were my
Okay.
friends. And then in high school, I kind of changed that because we moved to a smaller town,
Okay.
and you would think that town would be better, but in fact, that's when I kind of ended up getting into like a lot of the things that I did end up getting into. So
Okay.
sports kind of off. I was actually like a sponsored skateboarder, so I kind of spent a lot of my time doing like skateboarding in the high school and
Yeah.
definitely friends and buddies and all that stuff.
And it's great to have a house that everybody wants to go to. I feel like that's the
Yeah.
move. That's what all parents want.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So you said that you enjoyed school. As you saw, my daughter, she's almost 4, and I was talking about it with my wife. But we're like, hey, we want like she is learning every single day. Like she doesn't know that she's supposed to be learning, or like we're not pushing her to learn. When you're in school, how did you like stay excited about it, and you were just like still enjoyed it? What was that like for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's probably dependent on the topic. I would
Okay.
say it was huge dependent on the topic. Like if I was interested in it, then
Yeah.
I put my full effort into it. If I was not interested in it, then I found something else to basically catch my interest.
Yeah. I remember in middle school, no, it was elementary school. It was fifth grade. I got a C in class, and I came home crying, and I was like, I failed. Like I'm gonna get held back. And like up until that point, I was just like, I always needed to get like A's and B's, and that's what I was trying to do. And my mom's like, oh no, like it's just a C, that's fine. And then like from there on out, I was like, oh, I can coast. Like there was and like it was way too early to coast, but to me, school was just about getting the grades and passing. Like it wasn't about trying to get better at anything. It wasn't like trying to get a 4.0. It's just my mentality was like coast. Like we're
Yeah.
book smart here. I was like, that might not have been the right mentality.
You know what they call a doctor that had like a C average?
What was that?
A doctor.
Hey, there you go. Well, I my mom took me to Sylvan Learning Center, so I don't even know. I think they're still around, but it was just like a place to go work on your subjects. And they brought me in for like the tests and whatnot, and she's like, "Well, what do you want your son to work on?" And she's like, "Oh, handwriting." They're like, "Oh, like sentence structure and things of that nature." She's like, "No, he's a lefty with ADHD and has terrible penmanship." They're they're like, we don't really do that here, but we can work on like your paragraphs and like how to write a story." And she's like, "Okay."
Okay, that's cool.
Like we'll take that. We'll take that. So as
Yeah.
far as like skateboarding goes, how did you get into that? What was that?
I don't actually know or remember how I got into that, but I remember I had a group of friends and we were all into skateboarding. That's probably how I did.
Yeah,
And my buddy, he had some cool little rails and things like that, a skateboard that we tested at his house, and in my
yeah.
house we had some same things. I tried to build like little quarter pipes and mini
Oh,
pipes
sweet.
after out of like some plywood that we had hanging
Yeah,
around. And so we kind of just built our own skate park, and then we started getting a little bit better, and we started kind of traveling and doing some filming at young
yeah,
age, and then a shop hit us up and was like, "Hey, you guys could ride, not much, but like here's a free T-shirt and a free monster and a free board every once in a while." And
yeah.
then we tried to enter competitions, and then that circle obviously expanded, and then
Right.
skateboarding kind of just became a lifestyle after a while. And I was looking for teams to get on and different demos to skate in and be a part of. So that's kind of how it came about.
It's such at a young age getting free stuff. It's got to just feel like you won $1 million.
Oh yeah, I remember one time my friend he didn't skateboard. He was more of like basketball and football type of
Yeah.
person, and he came over to my house. This is in high school. And I remember on the front porch there was a box sitting there with like five skateboard decks, just all blanks. And I was like, hell yeah, that's cool that my friend comes and he sees like what is actually
Yeah,
going on, right?
that's
Yeah.
very cool. So, as far as skateboarding goes, are you just riding for fun and kind of picking up tricks? How do you get better as a skateboarder? And is it focus on competition, more so fun? Like how does that work?
Yeah, I would say that it definitely it's a dangerous sport. So it requires
Yeah,
a lot of throwing yourself at the ground, quite literally. And so getting better just is if you have the grit, I would say it requires a ton of grit and being
yeah,
okay with just falling and falling and falling. It's one of the hardest sports because like you could work on a trick for hours and
yeah.
finally get it and still not be okay with it. So it's fun if you're really into banging your head up against the wall, metaphorically speaking.
Well, it's
So
very
is CrossFit though, right? So is
yeah.
CrossFit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the interesting thing, like you said, like having the grit, most people would be like, "Oh, that skateboarder kid like can't focus or doesn't like this or doesn't like that." It's like he is working his ass off, putting his body on the line. It's something he does like. So like doing it. Like you just gotta find that thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So you said you went to a smaller town, and then we're getting into some things. Break that down
yeah.
for me.
Okay, so I moved to a town called Fort Lupton, and
What
you
state
know,
are we in?
we're in Colorado.
Colorado. Okay, okay.
Colorado. Yep. What city are you guys in?
I'm just outside Chicago, so I'm in Illinois.
Chicago. Okay.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So yeah, we're in Colorado over here in the right by the Rocky Mountains, up and along down I-25, which is nice. Always a nice scenic drive.
Wonderful.
Um, but moving to Fort Lupton was like a smaller town, and everybody knew everybody's business.
Okay.
And I was the only skateboarder when I
Yeah.
arrived there. And it was interesting. You kind of get into more things, more parties, you kind
Yeah.
of, start experimenting with like alcohol and drugs a lot more. And then that's when like sports were like, okay, maybe sports isn't quite something that I want to like spend my time after school doing, right?
Yeah.
The skate park was cool because I could still kind of find myself in it. And when I say cool, I mean like probably not the best pathway, but
Yeah.
like skate park offered all the nefarious things that I wanted, as well as like, I mean, in a sense, athletically speaking, the positive things as well. I was able to go to the skate park, hang around people, smoke weed, do whatever that, the kids were doing at this age. I was probably, about 15, 16 years old at
Yeah.
this time.
So is it peer pressure? Is it just somebody offering it to you? And then what's your mindset as far as like, oh, this is good or bad? Like, how did you think about it at that time?
Yeah, I would say that like I I don't know. I never really liked alcohol.
Okay.
So as like a kid growing up going to parties, like I was always like a smoke weed kind of guy, right? And
Yeah.
I always like, and I started eventually selling the weed because that's kind of what I got into, right?
Yeah.
And I think I didn't like alcohol because my dad, he re recently just passed away, but he was kind of an
Okay.
alcohol. He was, when I say kind of, he was an
Yeah.
alcoholic, and I saw that, and I was like, I don't think I don't think that's something I personally want to follow in.
Gotcha.
So I thought weed was a better option, right? And we
Yeah.
just kind of like weed is like the thing that led me into the world of everything else.
Yeah.
Not, I don't think it's because of like the weed itself or smoking or the high. I think that it just because it was illegal,
Yeah.
especially like this, like 2009, 10, 11-ish. You just get into the circles of people just dealing drugs in general.
Yeah.
So is the circle that you're ingrained or establish yourself with, everything's free game at that point, and you just kind of look like
Well, I feel that
leftovers.
like the drug programs that went to school, like two things on that. One, the officer shouldn't be doing night shift and then come in with red bloodshot eyes and
For
look
sure. Yeah.
exhausted.
Yeah, for sure. Yes.
Everybody thinks something's going on with him. And then if they were just like honest about it and be like, hey, it's not a gateway drug because you're going to want to chase that next thing. It's because
Yeah.
it introduces you to these things and let's actually have a conversation rather than no drugs ever. And then that's not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that also who it comes from. The
Yeah.
message is important, but how the message is delivered, in my opinion, is way more important.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we do. I like my job right now is peer coaching. On top
Okay.
of being the vice president of Redemption Road Fitness Foundation, I'm
Yeah.
also a peer recovery coach. And that is the like a big takeaway.
Yeah.
Like I communicate and work with a lot of people who are still inside prison, who are in community corrections, who are in some kind of justice setting, or maybe have
Yeah.
dealt with addiction in their life. And when they hear it from somebody, maybe like an officer, maybe like a staff member, maybe like somebody who went to school for criminal justice and got the job because of the degree versus because of the lived experience,
Right.
it comes off much differently. So having a cop tell you that as a kid, you're like, yeah, duh, cop's gonna
Right.
say that. They're gonna say exactly that.
He's
That's what we
paid to
see in
say
media
that.
portrayal. Yeah, exactly. He's paid to say that.
Yeah.
So if you had somebody, I would say the drug programs, if they had somebody that was like, I don't know, I wouldn't say maybe bringing in somebody that was sketchy, but maybe somebody who's turned their life around and is a friendly face and
Right.
you can see has a good energy about them. That might be that might work better.
Yeah, I still remember it was middle school. It was either sixth or seventh grade, but they came in and like that's that subject we were talking about, like AIDS or diseases or something like that. And they brought someone in with AIDS and they said, I woke up. I still remember the story. He's like, I woke up, the person said, welcome to the life with AIDS. And like it was like a one night stand, and he's like, I've had it ever since. I'm more
Dang.
scared of you guys. Like everything's under control, but like my immune system's gone. And I was like, I can't sit on another toilet. Like I'm so like I was just so scared right away. I was just like, this is unbelievable. But instead of a teacher just reading through a slide and be like, AIDS is bad. This is this. I was like, it hit. It hit.
I bet. Yeah, I bet. That's I think that's sometimes what's needed
Yeah.
is a story that hits.
Oh, 100%. So what was your introduction? I would say I had a fair amount of CrossFit coaches that they have funny introductions to drugs. My favorite one I think was in Cabo. He literally was walking down an alley and someone asked him if he wanted some weed. And I was like, that's out of a movie. That's a comic book.
Yeah.
So what was it? What was it for you?
It was just simple. It was just start smoking weed at my friend's house.
Okay.
That was it.
Yeah.
I mean, I learned wonderful work ethic from it because I didn't have a job. So I started mowing lawns or shoveling snow to be able to get this. So it was kind of like,
Yeah.
it did build some, in an odd way, probably some decent work ethic, being
Yeah.
able to figure out how to make ends meet with that being the case. Like if I had a job, my
Yeah.
parents would be like, like, what are you spending your money on kind of thing. My parents weren't super duper close, so the conversation wasn't like, like a super healthy household either. But one
Yeah.
of them would have noticed. One of them would absolutely would have noticed. So it was more like, yeah, I can go out and just get a little hustle and then,
Yeah.
do this. And then eventually that kind of stayed a little bit of time. And then eventually, you get introduced to parties and things like that. And then somebody at the party has something else. Then I started going to like raves,
Yeah.
right? This was a huge thing. I remember after my prom, I went to a rave when like the actual party started, and I
Yeah.
went to an after party even, and then I still made it back to my house in the morning to be able to go to church the next day, which was a pretty wild night.
Heart's just got to be racing.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sitting there like I shouldn't be here. Or maybe I should actually. Maybe I should. Maybe
Yep.
I'm the best one here.
So, as far as that whole scene goes, I feel like so I live around like some wealthy areas, so they have access to a lot of drugs, but like I'm right next to the people that are more or less getting it from Chicago. So we have the people transporting it and then the rich people buying it that live by me. What was the scene for you guys?
Hmm. Um, so I had it escalated very quickly for me. So
Yeah.
at first it was just get a little weed, sell a little bit of money, or
Yeah.
I'm sorry, sell a little bit of weed, get a little bit of money, and then it was realizing that I could sell other things like Coke and get
Okay.
much more money, and then it was other things like I could sell shrooms and Molly, and that was like a better crowd to work with because
Yeah.
like it's, people, you know what I mean? Like selling Coke was a little sketchy, but
Yeah.
I still did because that was actually where a lot of the money was made. And then you end up getting into, putting cameras outside your house, and then you end up buying guns, and then you end up getting in like a whole realm of this world where I was working with people that were straight from Mexico,
Okay.
bringing in, yeah, Coke. So it escalated so quickly within a matter of months to where, like, yeah, just I realized that, oh shit, this is serious. Like it turned out, weed was a little bit of time, and then, it just escalated to a point where I was making, thousands of dollars. I had a Mercedes-Benz AMG that I paid for in cash within like 2 months, right? So
Just flying under the radar. Nice.
yeah, and the stupidest person, right? So even you noticing that, right? I had a good job, so like I could have like said like I worked in construction, which
Oh,
actually
absolutely.
paid
Perfect.
decent money back
There's your
then,
in.
right?
Yep.
Hey, there's my end right there. So I worked construction during the day, which was like I worked for CenturyLink doing like
Okay.
fiber optics.
Oh,
So it
great.
was a good job. Yeah, at
Yeah.
18 years old, I ended up becoming a foreman by the age of 19,
Yeah.
and that was a great cover up for making a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, so I worked construction for 5 years at the labor union, and it took me maybe 3 years to understand that there was at least one drug dealer on the job, and everybody was on something. I had no idea. But
Yeah.
the problem with construction is working so many hours. You go home at night, you're sore, you're exhausted, so you drink. You want to just be able to fall asleep, and then you got to work in the next 4 to 6 hours, so you need an upper. And I'm like,
Yep.
what is going on here? And like, I would go to the gym and work out, and I was just like, all right, here we go. I've got my chicken or my burritos or whatever. Like, we're meal prepping, and like these guys are just high as a kite. I'm like, oh no,
Yep.
it's
Yeah, it's
unbelievable.
crazy how much you don't notice until you realize some
Right.
things, and
Yeah.
you realize I've been not noticing a lot.
Yeah. It's like, oh, this is why people just get run over, or this is why
Yes.
someone gets smashed by a bucket. And I'm like,
Yep.
right next to, they're like, jump in there. Like, no chance. They're like, we gotta
Yeah.
go fast. Nope.
Yep.
And I was considered like a slow worker because I wasn't jumping in front of nothing.
Yeah.
And so I worked mainline pipeline. So the guys that would travel the country and they're making six figures like easy. So they're just
Easy.
hammering it away. But I was on the union side, so I was fine with like, nope, I don't need to travel. Like I'm okay. But it
Yeah.
was, yeah, it was. We'll just call it unsafe
Yes, for sure.
for
Sure.
the most part. So
Yeah.
we're working construction. We're dealing a little bit of drugs on the side. Now, when you start dealing with just Mexico or whoever's bringing the stuff into you, not to sound like comical, but is there like a mentor program? Are they nice to you? Like, how does that conversation even go?
It was more family friends,
Okay.
so not getting too specific, but it was
Yeah.
more like
No.
the
Yeah.
people. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was more like the people, like one of the people that I was like, a girl that I was dating, as well
Yeah.
as just the circle that kind of brought that around. And necessarily not me being like the point person for
Okay.
somebody from country, but just realizing and understanding where some of that comes from. It's
Okay.
almost direct. So yeah, having a very, very close like intimacy, but not quite being the point of contact.
Yeah.
So
It,
no
it,
mentorship program, kind of just figuring it out, but through
yeah.
trial and error. with a ton of risk to reward
Yeah.
ratio.
Well, it's wild because not to get too political, but if most of the stuff was legal, like we'd
Yeah.
have other ways to make money and hustle and
There's no way that I would have found myself in the predicaments that I had found myself in
yeah,
if weed was kind of more like state level legal like it is now. I
yeah,
probably would have just grown out of a phase,
yeah,
right? Versus getting addicted to a lifestyle. Because I
right,
wasn't necessarily addicted to the drug per se, at least weed, because
yeah,
the other one is absolutely addicting, but more so the lifestyle, the fast-paced, high risk to reward type of thing, the
yeah,
dopamine effect that came from dealing with sketchy situations and sketchy people.
yeah. So we're riding a high after 2 months. We got our Mercedes. Are we still going on the up and up on that, or like where do things go take a turn?
You ready for like the heavy part of the story?
Let's go.
Okay, um so I graduated high school in 2012 and I did not walk, but I had enough credits to be able to. Actually, I was homeless at the time of graduation. And what I was doing was I was trying to purchase as much drugs that I had the capital to do
Yeah,
to kind of get a quick flip so I can find a home to live in. And I ended up getting a decent apartment, my first apartment ever while I was homeless and couch surfing and trying to collect as much drugs as I could to sell these drugs to come up on at least a down payment from an apartment, which was relatively easy because I was, selling, some coke and some Molly, which had pretty big ROI. And I ended up getting this apartment, kind of establishing myself, my residence here. And that's when things got crazy. When I had my own apartment, lived alone, and I was kind of just like full-time drug dealing. And full-time drug dealing was very interesting because I realized that this game was much more dangerous than I had originally thought. So I started buying a lot of illegal guns and even legal guns because at the time I had no criminal record. I wasn't really like, I wasn't involved in a ton of things on paper per
yeah,
se. So I was able to, I was 19 years old at this time. Graduated high school in May, and then September is when I made like one of the worst decisions of my life. And an argument had escalated over someone that I was involved with getting drugs, and the argument escalated to him threatening the girlfriend that I was with, and then it escalated to a drive-by shooting.
okay,
So a drive-by shooting took place. I was definitely the shooter, and that was a whole instance where it was just an eye-opening event, obviously, and one of the worst decisions that I've ever made. So I ended up basically, obviously committing the drive-by shooting, taking off from the scene, realizing that this was getting real serious. I laid low at my house. Nobody knew exactly where I lived. I kept my new address very tight, my cards close to the chest. Then I ended up actually taking everything like the clothes that I wore, the shells that I still had, and I was trying to get away and go kind of get rid of the evidence. And I ended up pulling out of my apartment complex and forgetting to turn on my headlights because at that time the car didn't have automatic headlights, right?
yeah,
And so the cop pulls me over and I almost made a stupid decision in that moment, like running or doing something even more stupid. But somebody who was in the passenger seat, who I'll just keep anonymous for right now,
yeah,
put his hand on mine and said, "Remember that you got pulled over for not having headlights on, right?"
yeah,
So I gave the cop my ID. And at that moment, I realized, like, even though I got pulled over for headlights, I think that this individual that I shot, who lived, thank God, knew exactly who that was because we had the argument, and the,
yeah,
the the police and everybody probably knew exactly what was transpiring. So at that moment, SWAT vehicles, police squad cars, a plethora of people must have been within like at least a mile radius because that's when I got arrested. And they knew I lived in Thornton in an
yeah,
area very close by. They just didn't know exactly where or what like
okay,
complex I lived in. So you could tell they were waiting and kind of staking out the location, looking for my car. It was very unique. It was a nice car, so they knew exactly what I was driving, and it was also the car that I committed the drive-by shooting in. So at this point, a threat. This individual that threatened the girlfriend that I was with was also very heavily involved in this lifestyle.
yeah,
So I didn't take the threats very seriously, even though it was a terrible decision and one of the worst choices I've ever made. It was a decision that I had to make with the best context that I had in mind. And being an idiot, a drug dealer, young, and living a very fast-paced lifestyle,
yeah.
just kind of made that decision, like almost felt like I was boxed in. And that turned obviously my entire life around. I ended up getting arrested. I go to one of like the biggest county jails that there are, which was Weld County. And this county is it's a very red county. It's very country. It's very, they're not foreign with what any of that kind of stuff. So when I go to the county, that's when I realized like this was real, right? All the media portrayal that I've seen about incarceration and going to jail and going to prison, I had no idea that there was a difference between jail and prison. I
Yeah,
had no idea what bonding out was. I called my mom, and my family wasn't financially like stable, like you know what I mean. Like we weren't super duper well off. We lived in a nice house, but both my parents own their own business, and we kind of lived a little bit more like paycheck to paycheck
yeah,
versus living on the opposite end of that spectrum. So when I call her for bond or bail, it's at $500,000. And I didn't even realize that bond is just to get you out while you're fighting your case in county jail. I thought it was like getting you out. Like if you had enough money, you just don't go to prison or don't
right,
go to jail, right? Which is, that could still be construed in a certain way with the amount of lawyers that you can
right.
purchase and clout that you might have. But for someone that just is a normal citizen, that's not necessarily the case. So I'm starting to realize that that decision, that choice, that was a turn of events that completely changed everything. And it was a big wake up call. It's a huge
So
wake up.
while you're going through processing and all that stuff, are you just having an out of body experience the whole time, kind of just like everything slows down, or is it you're hyper aware trying to get out, like what's happening?
Yeah, it's almost like not either of those. It's more
Okay,
like a numbness.
gotcha.
It's like a numbness to where like you're just going through the motions because like your soul is like depleted or like, at this point, probably not running on very much sleep. Obviously, your nervous system,
Yeah,
everything like that's probably just crashed. So when you're in jail, it's just so sterile and so like feels like it's a different world.
yeah,
Like even to this day, like remembering everything, like not just jail, but prison and everything going through it, it seemed like a different type of world. Like when you're in there, you almost immediately kind of forget society or you feel like it's so far away and so
right.
far out of reach that it's not really realistic. And this is your new life. This is your new lifestyle. This is your new place. So, yeah.
Was there ever a time when you were going through the process where someone just treated you like a person and they're like, "Hey, you're gonna get through this"? Was there ever any of that type of conversations that went on?
Definitely not in county jail. Maybe
Okay,
with like the other inmates,
yeah,
right? Um, but yeah, staff is very cold in the county jail. When you get to prison, it definitely changes, right? When you get
okay,
to prison, it's much more I would say like friendly, two-way street.
yeah,
But that's because prison and jail are just so different. Like the dichotomy between the two is like jail is like short term. They make it very terrible so that people can take deals, right?
okay,
They want people to plead guilty as fast as possible. So it is just you're in a jumpsuit, you wear sandals, you have to wake up at 5:30 every day for an inspection, clean your room, all these type of things, very just micromanaged, highly volatile, very political, extremely violent. And then prison is much more subdued because people live there with life without parole. You
yeah,
get to change your clothes. You have a gym. You have shorts. You have things like a television that you can watch. You have like your own room where you have a coffee pot and you have appliances and you have these things. In county
yeah,
jail, you have none of that. It's like you got three trays, 3 meals a day. And other than that, you just have bullshit drama going
yeah.
on constantly where either fights or political discrepancies are taking place. So
So
much
I
different.
didn't even think about that as far as the wanting people to take a deal like that. That seems fucked up.
Yeah. And I actually ended up getting administratively segregated. Oh no, did I lose you?
No, I'm still here.
I ended up getting administratively segregated, which means that I got put in solitary confinement because I was kind of a problem child at a young age because my public defender came in. I couldn't afford a lawyer. So
Yeah,
my public defender comes in and he gives me my first deal. And he states that your first deal is 106 years. And so at this point, my heart just drops, right? I feel like I am basically going to have a life sentence.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be the best criminal. I'm gonna be the best convict that I can because I've seen the landscape. So I
Yeah.
start learning the lingo. I start learning the culture. I start really involving myself full depth into what it looks like to be in a situation or scenario like this.
Yeah.
And I get good at it. I get good enough to bring some attention. And the attention was brought through by the like intelligence and things like that inside the county jail. So they AdSeg me at 19 years old, and I stayed in solitary confinement where the light does not turn off for my first basically year plus some um, straight while I was fighting my case at 19 and turned 20 and 21 inside of solitary.
How are we not losing our shit in there?
Good question. I think now I would lose my shit because I realize like when you're young and you haven't really experienced life, you don't know what you're missing out on.
Yeah.
You have kids and a
Right.
wife and a home with a jungle gym behind you. That's
Yeah.
so cool. And now I do too, right?
Yeah.
Like I have a home, like this is my office. My wife has an office right next to me. We have an amazing job. If
Yeah.
I was to lose that, I would probably go crazy. But what I lost was an unhealthy lifestyle. I was living in my own prison before I came to prison.
Okay.
I was locked up inside my own mind. So honestly, it was terrible, but like it was at least manageable because I felt like inside, like the path that I had chose, AdSeg was like, I won,
Okay.
right? As silly as that sounds, as crazy as that sounds, um, like when you have messed up so bad that the staff notices and puts you in a box, basically you're like, yep, I can rest on my laurels at least a little bit. People recognize, people respect it. That's like a lie that you tell yourself. It's a
Right.
justification that your mind and heart kind of seeks. But I don't know. I would say that I don't know. Yeah.
So, what are the misconceptions or truths that you dealt with while you were in prison or jail?
Um, Jail, prison, both highly segregated, very racially tense, but not like out here. Out here, it's like with politics and things like that, which inside I ended up becoming very like sick to my stomach about. So in no light am I talking about this in a positive way or
Yeah.
manner, because I absolutely hate the culture of the politics and like the gangs and things like that. But out here, you see on social media, if you're on one side or the other on the aisle, it's
Yeah.
just kind of it's volatile, right?
Right.
And there it's not volatile. It's just you know who uses what, you know who does what. If two parties have to talk, it's very respectful. If two different races have to fight, it's organized. And it depends on where you're at. This is more
Okay.
high security. And the county jail that I came from was very structured. So I'm kind of talking about that right now.
Yeah.
When I got to prison, I landed at Sterling, which is one of like the top three most violent in Colorado. And so it was a little bit more like that. And I was also like, I was 20. And when I seen, my first 4 months when I got to prison, I saw three dead bodies within that first 4 months. And a lot of the intensity happened within like my first 3 years. After that, it very much so tapered off.
Okay.
Actually, prison, in my opinion, has lightened up a little bit. It's become a little less political. It's become a little less violent. Um, but sadly, it's become a little bit more saturated with drugs. And the
Yeah.
reason why there's less violent and things like that is because everybody's so damn high. Whereas before, everybody was so dang structured and militant because drugs were kind of looked down upon.
Yeah.
But yeah, I forgot what question you asked me, but
Well, I know I was just gonna see like what are some things that people like assume that was true or
oh
what
yeah,
some people
yeah.
assume that was false.
Yeah, so kind of painted a little picture
Yeah.
there, right? Definitely the politics, the racial segregation is true on some yards.
Okay.
On some yards, it is absolutely not true, right? It is dependent very highly upon where you're at as well as what kind of time you're doing yourself.
Yeah.
Because people can just do themselves for the most part. Like that
Yeah.
is a thing. It's as long as you keep your nose clean and you have a clean jacket, you can skate through unscathed for the most part and not have to deal with all the tomfoolery, but also that kind of puts a little bit of a target on your back sometimes, like especially if you're in a higher security yard. So maybe that kind of clarifies like some of the myths and some of
Yeah.
the like portrayals on TV and things.
So like is there anybody that ever goes in there that's like, "Hey, yeah, like I made a mistake, but like uh, let's not like kill each other or like let's try to like get through this." Like what is there anybody that tries to take that route just to more or less to like keep things safer or like how do those conversations even go?
Yeah, so it wouldn't be a conversation necessarily, and somebody with that mindset wouldn't have much say so. So if
Gotcha.
they came in, yeah, they would be they would be basically thought of as like, that's cool for you.
Okay.
Do your thing, little buddy. Pat
Yeah.
you on the butt, let you walk on along on your own track. And that's cool. That's the thing that is the smartest thing to do. But a
Yeah.
lot of the time when people get arrested, right? So I ended up getting 28 years. So the,
Okay.
the final deal that they gave me was 16 to 28. And they maxed me out at 28 years old. And during my sentencing, I was 20 years old and I went to Sterling at 20 years old and I hit the yard and it was pretty nuts. But you're looking for community, you're looking for some kind of passion or purpose and you're looking for some kind of mentorship along the way, especially at a
Right.
young age. All that offer those three things, at least to my perception, to my knowledge, and what was told to me, was the gang life or the political life.
Gotcha.
And that's why I love Redemption Road. And that's why I love CrossFit,
Yeah.
right? Redemption Road being the nonprofit that we ended up starting in there. It offered those three things. And it allowed people to not just have to be the person that you kind of just communicated to, because
Yeah.
that person they don't get necessarily messed with. They could, because nobody's going to come to save them, right?
Right.
But also they don't have a lot of say so. They don't have a lot of like effect for change.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people get involved in the wrong things because they want to change things for the right things, and then they
Yeah.
end up being corrupted by it almost wholly and through, and they forgot the actual mission in the end. And some people want to come in there and have that conversation, and then they realize that I don't have a platform to speak on.
Yeah.
The cool thing about RF2 and CrossFit, what it does is it gave people a platform.
Yeah.
It showed not everybody liked it. There's a ton of haters, but we
Yeah.
realized that if there's people not liking it, we're probably doing something right as well.
Hmm.
So it gave people a platform. It gave people something to put passion and purpose into,
Yeah.
right? Like CrossFit's hard. You take a long time to get better at the snatch alone, right?
Yeah.
Not even getting some of the other more complicated movements. Gave mentorship. I teach you how to coach, but I also teach you how to be a good person because inside prison, if I am sorry for the lack of term, but if I'm a piece of shit,
Yeah.
nobody's gonna listen to me, no matter how much or how well I squat.
Yeah.
So I have to be a solid person as well. So it's
Yeah.
much deeper as far as like if you're a coach and you're teaching people, and especially CrossFit's not super like it's not looked upon as like the best thing, right?
Yeah.
Strong lifting, heavy bodybuilding, powerlifting, that's the thing that kind of creates and puts this appearance of dominancy. CrossFit doesn't necessarily always have that effect. So when you're a CrossFit coach getting somebody into this thing that's gonna, we know, break them the heck off, probably worse than they've ever been, like
Yeah.
lying on the floor afterwards. You have to have a strong character too. And then so I talked about mentorship, accountability, and then the community is obvious. The
Yeah.
community is something that people continue to always on social media to this very day talk about. CrossFit has the best freaking community.
Yeah.
So we offered that in a place that was dark. We were
Right.
the candle that was brought into the dark room, right? We were the thing that tried to illuminate the bleak, dismal darkness that kind of consumed everything inside that
Right.
those walls, those fences.
When you um got introduced to CrossFit, was it while you were in the gym? Were you working out in the gym? How did fitness find you? What was the path to that?
Ah, good question. So I came from a bodybuilding slash powerlifting background.
Okay.
And so I competed in 8 weight meets. They had like USA powerlifting certified and ex powerlifters come in and judge with a whole light system and everything,
Oh,
right?
let's go.
So they were sanctioned weight meets. And this is when I was at Fremont now. So
Okay.
Sterling still does not have this because
Yeah.
people will kill each other with the free weights. Well, at least back in the day, what it looked like on that, right? So now we're at Fremont, which is a level 3 yard, whereas Sterling was a level 4 yard.
Okay.
So I ended up getting moved to Fremont, and this is when a lot of progress in my life happened. I was around a lot of different people. At Sterling, CrossFit wasn't even a thing yet. I got
Yeah.
kicked out of the facility for being basically having, being a knucklehead. So I
Okay.
get moved to this other facility called Fremont, and that's when people start hitting me up and they start asking me questions like, "Where do you lie?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "I think I'm going to pull away from this a little bit."
Okay.
Right? I pulled away from it amicably though, because it was a choice that I made as a young kid, still kind of finding my way, saying, I respect you guys. I see some of the things that you're trying to do. I don't think that's me.
Yeah.
I don't think that's my path. I think that life has called me for at least a little bit of a different path. Maybe a better path. I don't want to say better because I could that could come off wrong.
Right.
So I say I think I'm kind of called to a different path. So I kind of started walking my own lane and I start doing my own thing and realizing that That was not what I wanted to be involved in. That was not right, principally centered or anything like that. So I pull away from that, but I still had, maybe not all, but I still had a good amount of respect from all the people because I didn't leave in like a terrible way, like
Okay.
in like, what might be viewed as a cowardice way.
Yeah.
I kind of left more of like my independence, right? I wanted it. I asked for it, kind of took it back, and I said, this is kind of the path I'm going to be headed now. And I did it hopefully full fledged to where people didn't think that I was lukewarm,
Okay.
walking back and forth, even though I kind of was. And I missed the old life, but also I saw what like the new life had for me. So I started teaching classes like Seven Habits. I started getting involved in programming. I started getting involved in college.
Okay.
These were all offered to me at Fremont, which none of which was offered at Sterling,
Yeah.
right? Because Sterling is where they send the bad children, like the island of misfit toys, right? And Fremont was where they send people who want to program, people who
Yeah.
want to start getting involved and educate themselves. So it was a blessing. It was a blessing going to that facility. And I started powerlifting, and I actually won overall six of the meets that I participated in. I only lost two. So I was kind of like strong for my size.
Yeah.
Strong for my size, like the Schwartz factor. Like my last weight meet, I ended up having like a 550 pound deadlift, 500 pound squat, and a 285 pound bench, which bench is definitely my weak point, right? I got
Well,
long arms.
what was your body weight?
171.
Woo! Putting on some numbers.
Yeah, that was what I still weigh right now. I think I weigh maybe like 175, 180, but yeah, so I weighed 171 then and loved it. I was good at it.
Yeah.
Wasn't terribly hard though, if I'm gonna be honest. Powerlifting wasn't super duper hard. Like I
Yeah.
gotta go up, 3 minute break, eat some gummy bears in between my sets, and then pull till my nose bleeds,
Yeah.
right? Whereas CrossFit, there was a group of people that were CrossFitters on the yard at the time, and I didn't like the programming that they were doing. It was a little bit more cardio emphasis,
Yeah.
and I was like, we kind of butted heads a little bit on methodology, right? Then some other people started coming to Fremont, right? It's always like a fluid place. Yards are different people. You could leave any day. You could land on a different place any day.
Okay.
So it's always something to think about. This gentleman named Trevor Jones, he ended up coming into my life, and he said, we have this nonprofit that we started at Lyman. It's called Redemption Road Fitness Foundation. And I'm actually like a legitimate CrossFit level one, and Lyman is now like a legitimate CrossFit affiliate.
Yeah.
And as he says all these terms, I'm like, I don't know what that means. And he broke it down to me and explained. And I was like, dang, that's pretty cool. Like, that's official. Like, that
Yeah.
could be something like I could do when I get out of here. He's like, yeah, but you don't really do CrossFit. You just talk shit to everybody. And I was like, dang it. Yeah, you're right. And he's like, you got to be, to be a CrossFit coach, you got to be, it's more than just the fitness. Like I love that your deadlifts like speaks to certain types of people, but
Yeah.
like what if your character was able to speak to everybody?
Hmm.
And I'm like, shit, well, can't really deny when truth smacks you in the face. So
Yeah.
as I'm getting smacked with this truth bomb, I'm kind of opening up my perception, my mind to be like, okay, yeah, this might be something that I'm interested in. So I ended up evolving into becoming a CrossFit coach. And it was really difficult to change, just getting in shape for CrossFit.
Yeah.
And then, but like the methodology I attached onto immediately. Like
Okay.
I absolutely like it ingrained in my brain so well. I'm always knowledge hungry, especially in the fitness world in that time of my life. So when I got this book that was the CFL one, I just ate it up. And I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, make flashcards, started teaching people, helped run study groups and things like that. And I was still kind of running this lukewarm life, but
Yeah.
I ended up starting and helping create the affiliate at Fremont. So me and two other people, one was our friend BB. His last name was BB. We
Okay.
just called him BB, Michael BB, and then Trevor Jones, who was the person who came from Lyman, who's like, this dude is also just like one of the best people. You ever meet somebody and their energy just like
You
you
just
just
know.
trust them with your
Yeah.
life? Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was that energy that came into my life. And he was strong. So that spoke to me. He could lift heavy things. And I was like, hell yeah. That's how you communicate with me. But he also had like the other side of it, which was not the physical aspect.
Yeah.
And then we started this program. We proposed it to administration. This is just like the second affiliate getting started. Now we have 12. So Redemption Road's huge now, right?
Yeah.
So this is the second affiliate, and we're proposing this thing on shaky ground, thin ice to say the least.
Yeah.
And it gets accepted. They like it. Start working. Like it's kind of like building a business inside, but not getting paid for it. So
Yeah.
like that's when you really like choose the people who are invested into it for the right reasons. We created a really awesome team. And then
How does that start? Do you raise your hand and be like, "Hey, I want to go talk to the warden," or like, what's the
no,
what?
it's so hard. You got to know people. You got to have the right. It's got to be the right temperature outside.
Okay,
There can't be too much humidity in the air. Those are obviously jokes, but like the order of events that need to fall into place to get some kind of meeting set up for what we did
right,
was providence, to say
yeah,
the least. It had to be that. And so, yeah, it was meant to be. I think that fate's a real thing, or whatever you want to call it. Things happen for a reason.
yeah.
And we had that meeting for a reason because there's a lot of people that benefit from that specific program. And that program, especially when we started to expand, kind of launched the idea of doing this in more places than just Lyman.
So then you have the proposal, and you're like, "Hey, I have the workouts for the next couple of months. These are the equipment I need," or what was the baseline that you showed them?
That would be an awesome proposal. That would be so much easier. But the proposal more so sounds like this. Here's how it's not going to affect your staff. Here's how it's not going to negatively affect your facility.
Okay,
Here's how it could, statistically speaking, help your facility and the people that are here. Because, like, when you communicate things, if you communicate like this story from the heart, that's cool and all, but nobody gives a shit.
right,
Like honestly, like inside, people just want their jobs to be easier and then look good if they're in a higher up
yeah,
position. So they approved it because we were able to communicate it in a way. And like there was no bullshit on the table. They knew exactly what it was. They knew programs don't get invested into this because it sounds so good and it's going to be
yeah,
a Disney movie one day, right? No, it's like this doesn't require a ton of work from staff. This doesn't require a ton of you purchasing expensive material. We
yeah.
already have all these free weights and things like that. We would love to be able to have the process of donations so that if we
Okay,
would like anything, that we can get donations from people who have a big heart from the street. Because that heart story and hits the heartstring when people aren't incarcerated or
right,
working at correctional facility, but it doesn't really land. It lands on deaf ears inside. So
yeah.
it's more of a strategic proposal of how this is going to help, but also not require a ton.
Yep. And your guys are going to be tired of shit, so they're not going to be causing trouble.
Probably
They're
so.
gonna,
Yeah, that's actually probably something that they're like, yeah, all right, cool. And then it eventually became where like they supported it, right? So I
yeah,
don't want to say that there wasn't support inside. It's just that's not what we based our proposal off of.
yeah,
So the support came eventually when they saw that this was something that kind of created a healthy community,
yeah,
right? There's always staff members that hate, there's always staff members that like it. You
yeah,
just got to find the ones that do, and you got to kind of lean on those people and collaborate in a professional manner on how we can make this better.
yeah. How was it running a class with everyone there?
Good, good. I mean, I had no problem with it. I had a really good reputation on the yard, so that was no problem at all. Naturally, I think I'm an extrovert, so I love public speaking. I love
Yeah,
getting in front of people. I like kind of being in the spotlight, if I'm going to be honest. So that was fun for me. For
yeah,
other people, it was a bit of like breaking out of your shell,
yeah,
right? It's like, "Ooh, this is uncomfortable telling somebody how to squat." When my ass would be walking around like, "Go deeper."
yeah,
That's not a squat. That doesn't count, right?
yeah.
So. But what was hard for me was saying it in a way to the people who might have been a little bit more
Right.
like they're showing up, right? They have a little bit more of an easygoing personality, not coming off so like
Right.
brash or fire breathing to be like, squat looks awesome, like really what we want you to do for your own sake so that you can see the results that you want.
Yeah.
Pick your chest up a little bit, push your knees out. I'm gonna put this med ball here so you know exactly what depth I'm looking for.
Yep.
Something like that. So yeah. So the process was learning for everybody, but just in different categories for everybody.
Yeah. When I coached, I was never very good at like rah rah, like yelling or anything like that. But I'd like if I did get excited, you knew like you did something good. It's like it's
Yep. Yeah.
not gonna
Yep.
happen a lot. Like I'd come up to you like that's phenomenal, like that's awesome, but not very good at yelling. But the coolest thing I ever saw was just the way that every coach has a different way of teaching something, and it's just from something they've picked up, they saw that it works, and they're able to work with so many people. What was some of your most enjoyable either movements or times that you had when you were coaching at your first?
Okay. I'm gonna fill in a little gap here, just so
Yep.
you know, okay? And then I'm gonna get to where that answer is, hopefully. So I actually ended up still not completely being like the best person. So basically, I ended up getting a staff member to be able to bring me in some like creatine and stuff like that. Because I was super excited about
Yep.
my new fitness journey.
Yep.
And that is a huge no-no. That is
Okay.
an absolute no-no. So I ended up getting removed from Fremont and getting sent to Lyman of all places, right? So
Okay.
Lyman is like where this actually started. But mind you, like I'm leading the facility, I have a good reputation there with staff and inmates as well. And then
Yeah.
I'm also like, getting ready to take my level one because the second level one that was ever taking place was going to be an opportunity, and I was ready for it.
Wow.
And I led all these people through study groups and things like this. So when I get to Lyman, there's about, I think, 14 coaches. I think it
Yeah.
was 14. 12 voted it's okay. Let him continue to take his level one. Because this
Yeah.
was the question on the board, right? Like, admin wants to see that we handle our own stuff. We clean up our own backyard.
Yeah.
And people in prison probably don't see that as like a negative thing. Like, cool,
Yeah.
you got some supplements. That's cool, right? And I could justify it all day in my head, which I did because I did
Yeah.
it, right? Two people voted no. It needed to be a unanimous decision for me to be able to take my CrossFit level one. And
Yeah.
I broke my freaking heart because I was like the lead at this other facility. And then I go to Lyman with all these new people, and they're big dogs because they all started the program. And Lyman is just a way different facility. It's
Yeah.
a little bit more hard. It's back to a level four facility. So it's different ways of just even walking about
Yeah.
to the chow hall or anything. And so when I get to Lyman, they tell me because of this, you're going to have to go down to a participant. And I was like
Okay.
a coach
Yeah.
and it broke my heart, but I took it pretty well. I took it on the chin because I understood. And also I realized that I can just work my way back up. But
Okay.
that right there is an important piece of my story because I worked my way back all the way up to where I am now, like the vice president of Redemption Road. And this happens a lot more than you think, right? People mess up or slip, and
Yeah.
our protocol is to move you back.
Yeah.
Not like demote you, but there needs to be a time of like correction,
Yeah.
looking at what you did. You're making some installments in your life to be able to get back to a place where people will listen to you. Because that's the thing is nobody's gonna listen to you if you're on some bullshit. So
Right.
if you're not walking the talk, then people are gonna notice. And I got removed all the way back down to a participant, and I was just crushed. But I was still showing up every single day. I still did the work. I put in just as much effort, and I worked my way back all the way up at Lyman to where the a major who was at Lyman ended up being the new warden at Sterling and asked the founder, and he's Brandon Cruiser. They
Yeah.
asked John Willis, who was one of the original 10, and Eric Jensen, who was one of the original 10, to go to Sterling's minimum side and create Redemption Road Fitness Foundation and make it the biggest and best affiliate that they have in the state. And
Yeah.
they asked me to come along on that journey as well. So I
Wow.
get a progressive move to a minimum. I go with these big dogs. Those two individuals, not Eric, because he was still the one that said yes, but John and Brandon Brandon was the founder and John was like, very high up in like the ranks.
Yeah.
They were the two that said no.
Okay.
So I had like this deep found respect for them to hold their ground, to not just say yes, because it might have been the popular opinion and do the
Right.
thing that might have been like a detriment to somebody, but it was the right thing to do in the end. So we get moved to Sterling, and now here is where we just pop off. COVID hit, it killed everything, but we made it through COVID. And my favorite
Yeah.
time coaching was coaching behind a glass to a gym. And the gym had like a band room, so a see-through glass and a
Yeah.
soundproof wall. We had a stereo and a microphone, and I'm teaching people in an entire gym how to squat, how to program, how to run this whole EMOM that we're doing
Yeah.
with a mask on behind a full-fledged glass while everybody is socially distanced at least like 10 feet away from each other. So I worked 16-hour days through COVID to coach people still through CrossFit because of the amount of time that it required to sanitize everything and get every single unit in there. Because
Yeah.
usually it's like class, afternoon class, everybody comes in from all the yards.
Okay.
COVID required 21 all the way through 26, 31 all the way through 36. So there's a good amount of pods that we have to get through 10. And
Yeah.
then there's 30-minute intervals between each one. So we're working 16-hour days, getting to the gym at 6 a.m., leaving at like 9:30, 10 p.m. And we're teaching behind glass with sack lunches and minimal food and barely
Yeah.
being able to get to work out ourselves. But that was the best time because we saw that CrossFit withstood the test of COVID
Yeah.
inside of a correctional facility with a bunch of people wearing masks, doing conditioning, which is terribly difficult.
Yeah. Just all that seems wild but that was the path, that was the focus. What else is going on in your life as far as like, hey, do you know you're getting out soon, or do you think you're getting out soon? How
Oh,
did
yeah.
that path go?
So one of the reasons at the beginning of my story when I walked away is because I actually learned what my time compensation looked like.
Okay.
Nobody tells you. Nobody tells you, right? So I learned what my time compensation looked like. So my 28 years was actually more like 50% because it was my first crime. So 50% is more like 14 years, and then you get good time off of that. So I ended up realizing that, oh man, I could do like only like somewhere between like 10 and 15 years. Like this is doable. I can get out when I'm in my 30s. I can still
Yeah.
have a life. As a matter of fact, I took college, so I got my undergraduate certificate in strategic communications. Here's my CrossFit level 2. Here's
Yeah.
some 7 habit stuff. Here's like my peer coaching cert. I did all of these inside prison, and I got out with a padded resume, and it was really easy to find a job. And now I don't have a job. I have a career that I
Yeah.
focus in. And I utilize CrossFit and peer coaching to help people who are in a similar situation be able to find their footing
Uh-huh.
if they're ready.
So as soon as you get out, not necessarily the first day, but how's the conversation in your head going? Like it sounds like you have a path, so that seems pretty good,
Yeah.
but what else is going through your head?
I'd say my path is a little unusual because I even had conversations on Zoom. Like at Sterling, we had like the Mecca. We were talking to different affiliates in different states. We were talking to like people in the UK. We were talking to
Wow.
people like Jason Ackerman and doing his podcast while we were inside for the best
Yeah.
hour of their day, right? So we had a lot of freedom, which is all gone, which is all dead now. You know, we got too big too fast and they pulled everything from out under us, I think. Yep.
Really? Why did they do that?
It's scary. It's scary to a prison system when there's a change of leadership. So the director changed, right? There's a change in wardens, the warden changed.
Yeah.
All these people were so behind us that the next level of people, you ever get like a, I don't know what your job is now, if it's just full-time podcasting, but maybe you've seen this on a movie. When you get a new job and like something was working, this
Right.
new person wants to come in and kind of make their mark or take their stamp and things. And I
Kind
wouldn't
of,
say that it's not supportive. I would just say that it's supportive in much different ways.
yeah.
Not not allowing meetings to take place, not allowing like our affiliate at Sterling didn't need staff in the gym. We just had a staffless gym, which was unheard of.
Yeah.
Zero, and it still was taken away. Zero incidents took place while that happened. The no staff thing. We ran all of our classes. While it was COVID, we disinfected everything properly. We put in the correct proposals. The chain of command was always followed as best as we could. It was just, it got too big too fast, and it was scary to see that a bunch of inmates had this much, whatever word you want to add in there.
I mean, it's such from the beginning of talking about the prison or jail system, if someone was to ask the purpose of it, I feel like the purpose should be not necessarily rehabilitation, but just a to help improve the life. Because generally, if the life is, if anybody was in the same shoes in the same circumstance, they would be doing the same thing.
Yep.
And which just blows my mind that if someone's in jail versus someone is the parole officer, you're like, oh, like I would never do that. Absolutely, you would. Like the same, given the same circumstances, whatever it is, that could be you. Um, but I'm gonna come up with a question. But it doesn't seem like the system is set up for improvement for the most part. Do you kind of get that feeling?
I have two theories.
Yeah,
One theory is this. I mean, look at the government shutdown right now.
yeah,
Two people can't decide on one thing, so it's nothing,
yeah,
right? That could have been it too. You could have had a lot of people that were supportive and a lot of people that were not supportive, and then it was just like kibosh, just
yeah.
squash the whole thing, right? Or, and this is a little bit more conspiracy theorist, but I gotta watch what I say too. What if, what if, like, you made a lot of money off of running a huge mass incarceration system in the country,
Yeah.
and this program was causing less and less people, which our recidivism rate is less than 2% to go back in. Would you support that if you were about power and money and control?
Well, I'm pretty sure the private prisons, it was either in Illinois or somewhere else, voted against making weed legal because that was gonna keep empty rooms. Like and yeah, it but it's just I feel like most people like are good people, but then as
Mhm.
when money's involved or it's a
When
job,
money's involved, when
yeah,
you mess with their paycheck and the possible outcome,
yeah,
that's more of a conspiracy theorist thing, right? So
yeah,
I don't actually believe in that wholeheartedly, but I do think that there's an essence in some of that feeling that comes out
right,
in some of the decision making.
yeah. Well, it's, yeah, I mean, if people were not going back to prison, then somebody's losing a lot of money, and I think it was like the prison guard union was like wholeheartedly against it, stuff like that. But yeah, just it's just a wild conversation to have with
Yeah.
somebody.
It,
Um,
it, 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 it boggles my mind that like a program that does what we do that requires like not a lot from the system itself. When we're talking about like the bigger picture, it
right.
doesn't require very much.
Yeah.
That has a less than 2% recidivism rate, which hands out professional credentials to allow individuals who were once thought as thrown away,
Hmm.
right, to now have a professional career in an industry that usually welcomes them wholeheartedly. Like
Yeah.
none of my affiliates or none of the people in my affiliate like scoff when they hear people making changes for the positive. Like
Yeah.
that's not like a like you would think that you'd have a little bit of like the thing that I said earlier, like red and blue or
Yeah.
left and right, black and white. Like that is not a thing at any of the gyms or affiliates that I've communicated with, which is like an insurmountable number. Like I've communicated with so many people, I've never got
Yeah.
a no. So I
Well,
have to think that some of the essence of what I spoke about earlier comes into play.
yeah. Well, I mean, clip that and ask anybody. 99.9 and even more percent are going to be like, "Yeah, I support that," and then be like,
Hmm.
"You mean there's another side? Like we're not looking for improvement? I'm confused."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there might be one, but I remember when CrossFit Journal put the first article about it, there was like one bad comment. And then
Yeah.
everybody came to like back like us up, which was so cool. So there might be one, right?
Yeah.
Which that's okay.
That was before they got a hold of the bots, and now
Yeah,
they push those comments pretty heavy.
that could be true. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you get out, you've got this path more or less laid out that you're going to start doing these things. How do you stay disciplined? Did you struggle for a little bit at the beginning? What did that look like?
Some people do well under pressure, and I had a ton of pressure. I was
Okay.
one of the first people to get out. I was one of the people who had to create this whole network. And
Yeah.
it wasn't just me. By no means am I trying to like be like, oh, I did this, right? More like I had a big role to fill. I had huge shoes that were expected of me, and I love expectations. I
Yeah.
love when the pressure and the weight of the world is on my shoulders. I think that's when I perform best. So when I got out, I was just focused, laser focused in. I ended up finding an affiliate. Shout out to Wild Horizons CrossFit. Ryan Garcia, David Hume was one of the people who got out before me. He went in and made a connection. And then I was in the middle of quarterfinals when I got out. And Ryan was so awesome that he was like, I'll come in during non-class times. Like, you want to
Yeah.
run these workouts? We got like 3 days to knock out these four. This was in 2023.
Yeah.
And I'll come in on my days off. So like he's like, okay, cool, let's make a schedule. This dude doesn't know me. This dude
Yeah.
knows I just got out of prison, and this dude's in he's a Marine, right? So I'm like, oh shit, like he doesn't say many words. He's stout, strong, got a big beard. He's a
Yeah.
man of few words, but a man of high character. So he
Yeah.
let me into his place and judged the hell out of me and brought people in to cheer me on, and nobody even
Yeah.
knew me. And I was
That's
like,
nuts.
this is where I will make my home if he
Yeah.
allows. And now we utilize that gym. We take people from the halfway house in Fort Collins to that gym 6 nights out of the week or 6 days out of the week because Saturday's in the morning for free.
Yeah.
His gym, CrossFit gyms are pricey. His is no exception. And he allows us to utilize his space for free from everybody in the halfway house or anybody that's getting out of prison on a parole for
Yeah.
RF2. And that wasn't the first one, but it was one of the ones that we kind of copy and pasted a model like that where
Okay.
I don't know which ones come first. So when I say copy and paste, I don't mean to be rude to any of the other affiliates that might be listening, but like I know that Trevor had like mock. And then Nick got out way before me actually. So Nick had Tava, which used to be CrossFit Decimate. And CrossFit Decimate was awesome because it was a huge gym and it allowed people to start working there and taking the coaching path. So Nick actually did this way before me. And we have people at different affiliates all around the place that welcome RF2 people in,
Yeah.
allow them to get a job if that's something that they want. And then CrossFit headquarters also supports us with a ton of scholarships.
Oh,
They
that's
they
great.
support us with half price scholarships for the majority of the individuals that want to do their CFL1 or CFL2 in there. And they
Yeah.
support us with a 100% scholarship with people who are getting out, which is like less than 10 a year. So that's a little bit easier for them to manage on the number side.
Yeah.
But we just plug them into the affiliate, or I'm sorry, to the seminars that are upcoming. So I email somebody, shout out to Courtney. Thank you so much. She emails me back. We get to basically put these people in the closest or nearest seminar for the level 1, level 2, which I
Yeah.
might be getting to take my level 3 now because the
Woo.
end goal is for me to go back into prisons with people like Trevor and people like Nick and then also our board, which is Michelle and Liz and
Yeah,
Audrey and Clarice, these people who have no affiliation with prison, but just saw that the model works and they're
yeah,
just on full-heartedly. And I want to go back in and teach level ones and level twos to people inside prison because I do think that I would do well at that. And that would be something cool to see like a full circle moment to where
yeah,
somebody that utilized this program now not only made it a career, but made it something that's a lifetime just bucket list.
yeah. So as far as like your personal like CrossFit goals and path you want to go for, you're competing in 2023. Um, did your training change or like how did that
Yeah,
process look?
I was much more fit inside prison.
Okay.
It is so hard out here with a full-time job and everything like that. I'm getting back to it and I
Yeah.
still got like a good strength. Like strength is always fun for me, but like I did a competition this last weekend raising money for honorably discharged veterans. And I realized that like conditioning continues and like right now I'm at peak conditioning
Yeah.
from when I was still inside prison 2.5 years ago. So I've just now it's taken like 2.5 years for my anxiety for me to be able to figure out my regimen, my schedule. I got married. My wife is awesome and amazing and my best friend and she does CrossFit with me every
Yeah.
single day as well. And she didn't before we met, but she still worked out. But I brought her into the, drinking the Kool-Aid life. And so now it's much more difficult. I used to do HWPO to the T with all the zone twos. Now I'm lucky if I can just get the WOD that my affiliate posts on like or CrossFit main site. So I'm
Yeah.
like, woof, okay, I got a 10-minute AMRAP in today. Good job, Taylor.
Yeah. And how did you deal with mentally or physically just having that not that regimen anymore, but still knowing you had to get that workout in?
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that, but I did it. And still trying to figure it out. So I would
Yeah.
say that it's a lot less structured and more just kind of being present in the moment and taking it day to day and being adaptable as I can because the job, work, and then also obviously being the vice president of RF2 requires tasks for things that none of our board gets paid for, but still requires a heavy amount of work
Yeah.
and focus to be able to like kind of expand and operate as it does.
Yeah, and as far as CrossFit goes, I'd say they have the definition of fitness down pretty good, and the programming for fitness.
Yeah.
As far as the like the nutrition or like health on that side of things, how do you work with either members or stuff on that end?
Yeah, so in my own opinion, I love nutrition and the way like the science of how the body works. And personally, it's been much easier to stay fit just by being able to eat real food. Because
Yeah,
inside you're just there's such a high amount of carbohydrates and processed food that you feel like crap all the time just because
yeah,
of the food that they give you and offer. So out here, being able to kind of lean into that to help people with nutrition, like specifically my audience that I would help is people who are like coming out of addiction
okay,
and learning just how to just do basic
yeah,
meal planning. So I don't go terribly in depth unless somebody's like very high in their fitness level. And even then I kind of like stay in my lane or my scope of practice by just like kind of utilizing like the block system or the
yeah.
zone diet for a basic, like easy plug and play type of thing. So I don't know. It kind of depends on who I'm talking to, I guess.
And now, how do you deal with people that obviously you know what works and they ask for your advice and I'd say the eating part the hardest part about it is like it's fairly simple but to not do it there's a level of either discipline or motivation or lifestyle that doesn't lead that to success. So how do you talk or work with those people when they're like it's just not working and you just know they're not doing it?
I'm a very straightforward person. I'd say
Okay.
one of my most possibly harmful traits, but also very like I would say still quality traits is
Yeah.
talking straight,
Okay.
right? Being able to tell it how it is. So
Yeah.
I'll tell somebody that's like depending on who I'm talking to, right?
Right.
Of course, because there's some people that won't hear this. I'll just tell them how it is. You lack the discipline. If you actually want the results that you're not getting, you have to change something.
Yeah.
So kind of being straightforward. And I also teach like life skills classes, like 7 habits and speed of trust. So I teach these classes like in multiple facilities across
Yeah.
the state. And that's when I throw some of that knowledge, right? And then I reincorporate some of what I speak about in our life skills classes when we
Yeah.
have the conversation about diet.
So what is Seven Habits? Is that a book? Is that a process? What's the
Yeah. So Seven Habits of Highly Effective People is like, it
Oh,
was on the
okay.
number one selling list.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's that book, right?
I think I
And
have
so
two of
I'm
those
actually
around here somewhere.
Yeah, I was gonna look for it real quick, but I was like, you know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. It's a class that was very unpopular in prison because it's easily applicable and it helps a lot, but we've taken it out here and kind of made a career out of it.
Yeah.
So we teach Seven Habits in like 70% of the halfway houses in Colorado out here with our
Yeah.
team. Our company is called NAS Recovery Solutions, and that's the company that we utilize our peer coaching skills with.
Yeah.
So RF2 and NAS kind of collaborate in a sense where we have a lot of the same members on both or the same members in both companies, and we utilize helping people with addiction here, and then we bring in CrossFit when they're ready to be able to take that next step in the physical domain.
Yeah. I would say rather than taking a bunch of action, I would rather just read a bunch of books and then not take action on too many different steps.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so to get nitpicky on the habits, I'll pose a question to you. So the definition of a habit, what I believe is when you look it up, it's a something that you just will naturally do without having to think about it, or
Mhm.
unconscious behavior. So when I think of most habits, like brushing your teeth or like meal prepping or those things, I feel like that is a task that is determined by motivation and skill. And like a habit would be if you go to wash your hands, you pull the switch and water doesn't come out. I feel like that's kind of like an actual habit. Um, so what is your thoughts on are you creating a with that framework, are you creating a habit or are you creating like an ability to do a task but making the task easier? If that question makes sense.
I would say a little bit of both in the way
Okay.
that I kind of define a habit as the intersection of three things. It's the desire,
Okay.
the knowledge, and the skill of
Okay.
something. So bad habits like smoking cigarettes, you have a desire to do so. Eating poorly, you have a desire to do so. You have the skill, you can eat, you understand how to do that. You have the knowledge, you understand what's good, what tastes good. You have feedback immediately from these
Yeah.
things. So reframing it with that kind of Venn diagram and finding a way to balance all three of those and
Okay.
find healthy lifestyle patterns
Hmm.
that help you become more effective. And then we define effective by bringing long-term results. So I
Okay.
always like kind of contrast like efficiency and effectiveness is like when mom comes and tells you to clean your room, right? You could probably
Yep.
relate to this. You shove everything under the bed and put it in the closet, and then when she comes in, you have your foot here, right,
Yep.
holding this so that the toys don't fall out. And she's like, "Okay, looks good." Just from an outside perspective,
Yeah.
that was very efficient. But you're going to have to continue to do that every day, and it's probably going to get worse. And then the mess is going to be at a point where you can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Or you can be effective. First time mom asked you to come and clean your room, you actually take the time. And you might miss out on going and playing with your friends on Monday, but Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and even maybe into the weekend is going to be much easier and much less upkeep.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about when we speak about effectiveness versus efficiency.
Okay. I love that. So there's I want to say it's Harvard or Yale, but they talk about habits take anywhere from 13 days to like
Mm.
136 days. How do
Yep.
you, while talking to someone, like incorporate like this is going to take a long time. You're not going to be
Mm.
perfect about it, but what is your best way of getting through to people? It's like we're going to make this happen, but it's going to take a little bit.
That's kind of an easy conversation because
Okay.
I am very straightforward with everybody.
I'm
I
I'm
tell
I'm
people
liking
like,
this. I'm liking the
yeah,
straightforwardness.
yeah. I tell people like some of you in this room are just gonna hear it one ear, not the other.
Yeah.
Don't be that person. If you just got offended by what I just said, then that might just be you. It might have
Yeah.
struck a chord for a reason. So tune in harder, right? And I'm able to talk to people like that a little bit more because not like I'm not a dick, but
Yeah.
I'm very like as a matter of fact, like get it or don't.
Yeah.
There's the door. This isn't required. This is something that everybody's here for because they actually want it. And it's not going to be easy. We've all known this. Some of you
Yeah.
might be at a later stage in life realizing that this shit just does not come to you easily. That's
Yeah.
okay. That means you got to work harder than everybody because as much as fairness is a thing, it isn't equal, right?
Mhm.
Those are different things,
Yeah.
right? Fairness could mean something different for somebody else. So I kind of just communicate very pragmatically that this is going to take some work, some time, and then most of all, my favorite word in the dictionary It's going to take some discipline.
Okay.
Because after you leave, you get this fuzzy motivation feeling. That shit wears off and ebbs and flows throughout life. Discipline's doing the shit you know you need to do when you don't want to do it. Sorry to
Yeah.
say, but that's what's required. And that's one of the most independent variables of people who are highly effective or
Yeah.
highly successful versus people who continue to just be good. Because the enemy of good, or I'm sorry, the enemy of the best is the good.
Yeah.
Staying stagnant, being okay with mediocre, being okay with good is not going to allow people to reach their fullest potential. So we crack the walls of what is keeping you in good and what you need to do to be able to find best.
So when that little voice in your head says, "Oh, we'll take this off, we'll do this, we'll do that," do we use positive reinforcement? Do you say, "I'm not a little bitch," or "Who's going to carry the boat?"
Depends.
Like, how do you do it?
Mhm. It's going to carry the ball. It depends. Like, I mean, with people that I know very, very well that are meathead and came from maybe a harder lifestyle,
Yeah.
I have an acronym. It's called DBAB. And DBAB stands for don't be a bitch,
Yep.
right? That
Yep.
doesn't work for everybody, right? For some people, it's more so, it's very softer. It's a gentle approach. It requires a ton of empathy.
Yeah.
DBAB still requires empathy. I just know that if I was getting stuck, I don't
Yeah.
need this soft conversation. I need somebody to tell me exactly what the hell I need to hear, what I'm doing wrong, and what I need to refocus on.
Yeah.
I'm going to do better that way. And there's a lot of people, especially that came from like this lifestyle of survival mode, that they just need that. They just
Yeah.
need that input. There's other people that have been through a lot of trauma, that have been through a lot of things where they could be triggered by certain conversations or tones or
Yeah.
elocution in my voice that need a little bit more of like a slower, more empathetic approach to where listening is just required and silence is appreciated.
So, what recently has been something that you've tried adding into your life and you either successfully did or didn't add in, and how did that take place?
Um, yeah, so my morning routine. This has
Okay.
been going on for 6 months, but I used to look at my phone like I didn't have technology, and when it came into my life, I noticed that it was m something that was much more addictive than I had thought. Because
Yeah.
nobody talks about the addictive nature of your phones or technology as much as they should,
Yeah.
right? Like they talk about drugs being addictive, they talk about lifestyles and negative patterns and habits and things like that, which that just falls into the same category. It's just digital.
Yeah.
So I noticed that the first thing I wanted to do was open my phone. So now the first thing I do, I try to get fresh air, let my dogs out. I write in my 5 minute gratitude journal, and then I drink my element, which I see you have a nice can of as well. So I don't drink caffeine first thing in the morning. I drink salt water, right?
Yeah.
I do these little things to start my day off well, and I've noticed that that's made an entirely different change in like how I end my day.
Yeah. Nope, that's phenomenal. Was there a time where you didn't think you would succeed, or was it just every day it was just an easy answer, this is what I'm going to do?
Yeah. I didn't think I wasn't going to succeed. It was just like if I messed up, I was like, you messed up, do better.
Okay.
Yep.
And I think that's phenomenal. There's the quote that consistent people don't worry about consistency. Like it's not the end of the world. You don't fall off the wagon. And I'm starting to see a lot of that in consistent people. Um,
Yeah, yeah. Guess I didn't realize that, but yeah, if I miss a day in the gym, it's not the biggest deal. I
yeah,
probably needed it more. I needed to go to the gym and overtrain, right? So I
right.
can see like if you're highly consistent, then sometimes a break is good, even if it wasn't planned.
Absolutely. Well, to end things, we'll finish with the last two questions that everyone gets. What's your
Cool.
definition of health? Not necessarily the dictionary definition, but what is health to you?
I would say health is being balanced in four dimensions of life, right? You have your physical, because if you don't have a good temple to walk around in, you don't have many other problems, right?
Hmm.
You have your spiritual, which we could get into that, but just say it's spiritual. You have your social and emotional, so the way in which you kind of control yourself as well as others. And then you have your mental aspect, right? How sharp, your acuity, your ability to learn things, how well balanced you are across all those four domains.
Hmm.
That's my definition of health.
Amazing. And then what's something from your life that the people listening to the podcast would be able to take away as a positive?
As long as there's breath in someone's lungs, redemption is possible. I've known a lot of people, and I've met some of the best people in prison that have done things that would be considered, um, you know, throwaway to be some of the most high-charactered individuals that I've ever met. So I would say the old adage says, never judge a book by its cover. but also don't judge people by their rap sheets because I've met people with nice homes, nice cars, and nice clothes that
Yeah.
are pieces of shit, to say the least.
Yeah.
And I've met people with not much to their name, terrible rap sheets, and not a good track record of relationships. But man, they're trying, and they have a bigger heart than most because they've been humbled before, and they realize that they can be touched, and they need to work on some things. And when you realize that, it brings a different kind of level of humility to somebody.
Yeah. I love that. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thanks, man.
Yep.
I appreciate it.